As I was saying, history tells us something that Anthony Albanese seems to have forgotten. That Australian voters don't like being lied to. They don't forgive it. Because have a look what happened. I'm sure you remember what happened after this broken promise before the 2010 election. A broken promise that crippled Julia Gillard's Labor government.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
And if that wasn't a lesson enough, what about this? Tony Abbott then broke this promise before the 2013 election, and he was crucified as well.
No cuts to education, no cuts to health, no change to pensions, no change to the GST, and no cuts to the ABC or SBS.
Now, you'd think Anthony Albanese would have learned from that bitter history, but here we go again. Before last year's election, Albanese made not one, but two promises he's about to break, starting with this one.
It will see electricity prices fall from the current level by $275 for households.
Now that's already one albatross around Albanese's neck. For some strange reason, he's decided to hang a second one as well. He's planning to break this election promise too.
We have no intention of making any super changes.
Now he's trying to hoax voters about that promise. He was the Prime Minister today, again insisting he didn't say what you exactly heard just then, saying that he was only ruling out big changes.
We said during the election campaign that we did not intend to make big changes to superannuation, and we don't.
No, we heard you right the first time. Any changes it was. Joining me, as he does every week, is National Senator Barnaby Joyce, the former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby, great to see you again. Look, the one thing I think that could save the Prime Minister from paying the price that Julia Gillard did for breaking her promise is that the main change that Albanese is looking to make is capping super savings at $3 million, so for the very rich, to save $1 billion a year in tax concessions. And that's just going to affect, we're told, about 36,000 Australians. Not enough normally to swing an election. Or have I read that wrong?
Well, you read it right. And obviously and once more, it's a case of envy politics. It's the super rich and all the rest. But don't worry about yourselves. You'll be the last one the crocodile eats, that sort of approach. But this one worries me even more, Andrew. So this is a quote from the Financial Review. Because the super funds diversify out of systemic, Dr Chalmers says they need to join with government in the areas like affordable housing, the care economy and digital. That's their idea of sustainable. So hang on, fellas. Your money in your super fund is about to be used to achieve the government's, in some instances, bat-crazy ideas. That is your money. The $3.3 trillion is your money. And so what we'll see, Andrew, is that they'll say, look, we haven't got the money to build all these transmission lines for all our wind towers, and how do we do this? Got it. We use their money. We have their taxes and their money. Now, that is a huge risk, and that worries me intensely. Super funds are there to make you as much money as they possibly can. That is legal. Legally make you money. And in the past year, if they invested in coal mining companies, they would have made you a lot of money. You'd have more money in your skyrocket, and when you retire, you're less vulnerable. You are wealthier. You are not poor. But if your super funds and the government says, well, that's an immoral investment, and then they try and find you another form of investment in that magic pudding of the vast suite of investments, your super fund will do what they call underperform. That is, not make money. And when you retire and you're 70 and you're scared, you can thank Mr Albanese and Mr Chalmers for trying to virtue signal you out of your money when you were working.
Well, they're going to obviously say, well, look, we're going to put incentives there. The super funds will still make money and all that. But I agree with you, directing it to particular areas, that's got real whiskers on it. But you know what, Barnaby? What frightens me is that many of the super funds are not pushing back on this, because this is, as you say, this is wrong. But is there a conflict of interest? They have a look. Many of the biggest super funds and their main lobby groups, they're chaired by former Labor figures, including former ministers Wayne Swan, is still, national president of the Labor Party. He's chairman of CBUS. Nicola Roxon, chairman of HESTA. Greg Combay, head of Industry Super Australia. And these super funds and their lobby group, they're also big donors to Labor. The whole arrangement seems to me extremely cosy, in fact, too cosy.
Well, it is. And more to the point, and then that cohort is then joined by the enlightened few, who I went to River, I went to a private school in Sydney. But many of the super funds actually draw from that pool, where we have people who are basically pretty wealthy, went to private schools in Sydney, and coming with that is a certain political view, might I say in many instances a teal view. But they don't do it with their money and support their views with their money. They support it with yours. And they get it themselves onto super boards and say, you know, we're going to be virtuous here. But it's all right for them to be virtuous because they're very wealthy. They haven't got a worry in the world, you know, multi-generational wealth. Good luck to them, and God bless them. That's the whole thing. We respect that and protect it. But they shouldn't be inspiring their views on someone else's money who's out there sharing sheep, stacking bricks, working on the road. That's not what is. That is not their purpose. And when that combines with the Labor Party, who's basically people who multi-generational indoctrination by their own political views, that's a bad combination. And then it's backed up, as I just showed you from that Financial Review quote, where they say that, you know, the super funds have to look at climate policy and digital policy and housing policy. We'll look at them if they make a buck. If they make a buck. But if they don't, no, we won't.
Well, you see, that's the bit that really frightens me, Barnaby, because when they say, you know, we want you to invest in all these green schemes, those green schemes, they don't make economic sense, right? They do not make economic sense. The only reason they will turn a buck is by taxpayer-funded support or mandated use, like you must use this green power, which means we're locked in to an inefficient, irrational form of power generation, because otherwise poor old Labor Party super funds, industry super funds, they're going to suffer a loss. We can't have that, can we? It locks us into a terrible future.
It's a troika of the economic apocalypse when it works like this. The troika being, you know, the three horses pulling the one chariot. Number one horse is they use subsidies, which is basically your taxpayers' money, your viewers' money, to subsidise renewables, subsidise the wind towers and the solar farms and the pump hydro and all you know, big subsidies. And then they use government policy to say you must buy them. You must buy this product. When you go to the power supermarket, you must buy that potato. You must buy that apple. And now it's the third horseman. And when we run out of money, we're going to go into your super fund to dolly it up even more. And if you can't see the problems in that, dear listeners, then boy, oh boy, be careful. You know, little old bush accountant, be careful. It's your money. Protect it. Because if times get tough and that money's not there, the person who suffers out of all these virtue signalling is you. You.
Absolutely. Barnaby, I totally agree with you. May I just, by the way, congratulate you. I saw you reading your mobile phone at a distance. You're about my age. You're probably a little older, and you didn't even need glasses. I am so envious of you. Good on you. Thank you so much indeed for your time.